Welcome to Fairy Tale Access, where the head fairy's quest is to prove that fairy tales do exist in actual time rather than once upon a time. Together, we will unravel the heroes, young and old, who turn dreams into reality. These are the people who still believe in happily ever after. The discoveries will bend even our most cynical non-believers into believing in fairy tales. Hi, welcome to Fairy Tale Access. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to Marie Jin from Sydney, Australia by Skype. Thank you for joining us with The Last Regret.
Thanks for having me.
My goodness. All right. How did you come up with this story? It has a lot of ins and outs of the fantasy world. I'm really not sure if we're dealing with vampires yet or something else. And they just grow up really fast. So can you give us a little background?
Yeah, so pretty much I started this book when I was 14 or 15, and that's when I had finished it. And I used to be obsessed with vampires at the time. But as I had finished the book, Twilight sort of came out, and I decided, okay, you know what? I don't want to do something that's been overdone now. So I decided to change them enough that they would be very different from vampires while still having that sort of like immortal aspect that people love. And the fact that they grow fast, I think, was in a sense it connected as well to the fact that they go through some trauma. And them growing old fast is a way for me to be able to write in the book that sometimes you do have to age a bit, especially in life, especially with the different traumas. And it's just a way to sort of like adapt, and it's more of like a survival type thing. But with fantasy, you can sort of, pull a few strings.
So you started when you were 14. Were you going through something traumatic where you felt like you wanted to grow up at the time? Is that what helped inspire the story?
It's because I used to travel a lot because of my mom's work. So she was working for the French government. So every 3 to 4 years we would move, and we had to move back to Paris at some point when I was about 12. And I think the shock from Africa to Paris, and Paris being very cramped and small and like the packed city, it kind of threw me into the very difficult few years. So that by the time I moved to Australia, it was sort of just my writing was a way to have a safe place. It was, a way that, like, the world would be mine. I could have that control at the end of it, even if the characters take over most of the time. But I had that final control and something that would sort of like never leave me.
You're exceptional at world building. Do you think that all of your travel around the world really helped you to create a world that you wanted to live in? Did you take the best from different places?
Definitely. I think seeing different cultures and being able to see, anywhere from the poorest of the poor to the richest of the rich in different settings, different countries, really opened my eyes to a lot. And I think it's made me understand that a lot more is possible. So that when it's a question of building worlds, it just can extend as much as your imagination is possible to go. Yeah.
So is this your first series?
Yes.
How many?
So first book, first series.
Wow! Congratulations! It's exceptionally well done.
Thank you.
So how many books will be in the series?
So it's going to be a total of 4 books. So with the 4 elements, with each book sort of concentrating on one of the elements while not being just them, but it's sort of like that main theme is the one element in each book.
Oh, great. Tell us a little bit about that and the type of magic that's involved in the storyline.
So with my sort of magic, I try and limit what they can do. So the main elements, obviously, they can control their prescribed element. But then in book 2, you'll sort of discover a bit more of, about portal magic and how elemental magic like that comes from a more ancient type of magic, and how you still have those potions. You still have, the souls and how they can sort of play around with that, with the memories and be able to feed from those souls and gain strength. So it's still very limited, because I do keep it in sort of like the Earth world, while having that option of portals going to other worlds and implying that there is more in those other worlds.
Were there any events that took place, because there's a lot of loss of life in the book, that influence those type of scenes?
I think I like the shock factor, and half the time my characters will take over a scene, and based on their personality and the way that they're going to act or talk in a dialogue, it's going to sort of it take its own course. And half the time, and unfortunately, there's always a lot of characters that die or go through a lot of bad stuff. But that's because it's their personalities that sort of pull them towards that. And mainly, for example, Lucas, and without giving too much information, but Lucas goes through a lot. But he's also one of the kindest characters. And he goes through a lot because he's got that protector type personality. So he'll have to play the hero even when he doesn't need to be the hero. And that's why there's so much that happens to him. And that's the same that happens with other characters, where there's situations that start because of their personality and how they would act, and they just take control.
Wow. You did a really good job with that. It actually choked me up a couple of times. I was really surprised, because you don't always expect that in fantasy. You expect to get whisked through it, go on to the next adventure, but you really played it out well. And the suspense, the characters, the way that people weren't who you thought they were, that was really well done.
If it makes you feel better, I cry in the scenes as well. When I make my characters go through horrible traumatic events, I'll be crying as well.
Oh, you can tell. It's so well done. It really gives an impact and really a punch where you can't put the book down until you get to the end, because you just want to make sure people are going to make it out. Especially Alana, you really start to bond with her. Is that how you pronounce it? Is it Alana? Elena. She was great. She took all the bumps and bruises. Why did you skip decades, though?
I think it's because she was thrown into a world that she was unaware of, and she had to grow faster than a child should. So I had to sort of speed that process up. And because with Nephanes, there's a rule that you can't, just like vampires, you can't turn children immortal too young, because they're not able to develop properly. So they're pretty much stuck. So their mentality is that of a child stuck in an immortal body. So getting her to age means that she'd be able to control her powers more. She'd be able to make sounder decisions, which is why the elders kind of push her towards that quest, to get the Daenerys potion and speed through her age.
Wow. And I heard that it's going to be a script for an upcoming movie.
Yes.
Congratulations.
I'm very excited about that. Thank you.
How did that come about?
So funny enough, the original self-published version that I had written, which was absolutely terrible, and I'm still mortified that there's some copies that are out there. Um, it was the version where I had just quickly translated it from the French one that I had written originally at 15, and just decided, you know what, it's not going to go anywhere. I just want to share my story. So I printed some copies and went to some events like Supernova and HubCon, where I met a bunch of amazing authors. And at one of those events, there was the producer sort of going table to table, talking to all the different authors, asking about their book and asking for pitches. So I pitched him my idea. He seemed interested, and he asked if we could have a meeting the following week, where I met up with him, gave him the breakdown, like the chapter breakdown, because he didn't really have time to go through the entire book. He liked the idea, and 6 to 8 months later, I had the option contract, so to get it adapted into a movie. Everything's been a bit delayed because of COVID, but hopefully now we've got a scriptwriter, and as soon as she signs her contract, we'll be able to start on that script. And once we have the script, then we can get going. And if everything hopefully happens according to plan, we'll be in pre-production at the end of the year, and it will be in cinemas worldwide, so in the next couple of years.
Congratulations. So what about script writing? Do you get to do that, or does someone else do that for you?
So there's a specific person that will write the script, but I will be working alongside them just to make sure that the story goes where it's supposed to be, and to make sure that she knows what's going to happen in the future books. So that she knows where, like what elements need to be in the movie versus what she'd be able to sort of adapt her way.
Wow, that must be different.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it's going to go.
That's great. Have you met the script writer?
Yes. Yep. So I can't give a name yet, but she is lovely.
Oh, that's good. That's exciting. So what about the other 4 books? Are they already done, or the other 3?
So I'm currently in the middle of book 2. I've so far written around 47,000 words, and that's pretty much my main storyline that's been set up. I've got another 2 big storylines that now I'm going to weave through it. And once that's done, then I can send it to my 2 editors. So my structural editor, A.A. Warren, and my line editor, Mr. Evans. And once they're done and go through it, then I'll be able to print that one and organize it for a release date in September.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll be able to start. So number 3 and 4, and have both of them done in the following year.
So which characters did you relate to the most?
Funny enough, the way that I've written my characters is that they each have a bit of me. So they'll have some flaws of mine, and they'll have some strengths. And you've got, for example, Elena it can be very stubborn, but she's also very independent. Lucas is that friend that you want to have because he's always there for you, but at the same time, sometimes he can be overbearing. You've got Gabriel, that's sort of like that cheeky kind of personality that just loves everyone, but at the same time, he's got that commitment issue as well. And then you've got Marcus, who's that very intelligent and kind person, but also very secretive and mysterious. So there's just bits and pieces in all of them that I think a lot of people can relate to as well. And then you'll have some that will be drawn towards one in particular, depending on who it is.
That's true. What about the mystery man from the party?
It's you find out about who it is in book 2.
In book 2?
Yeah.
Ooh. Is he one of the ancient ones, or is he a regular human?
Well, he's a Nephane, so definitely not a human. But I can't say anything else, otherwise it's going to spoil it, because it's like one of the biggest plot twists in the series.
Oh, you did so well with the twists too. Some were really surprising. What about the landscape for the world that she's entering. How did you come up with that?
So I really like the idea of portal worlds because you have that connection, you have that bit of magic that's in your own world. And the way that she describes it, so with the song and how she realizes that connection from the human world to the prophecy is through the fact that humans had that magic all along, but they were so afraid of it that it sort of got buried in history through songs and stories. And the portals were sort of always present. It's just humanity just decided to close their eyes around it and just said, you know what, no, that forest is weird and scary, so we're just going to create some scary stories for the children to not wander in that forest. And then those children grow up and say the same stories to their children, et cetera, et cetera. And the world through a portal can expand to however big you want it. And then that portal will have other portals through it that connect to other worlds. And I'll be going more into portal worlds in book 3 because the title for book 3 is Between Worlds. So that's really going to go into detail as to how many worlds there are.
Wow. So you wrote it when you were 14, 15 in French. Is French your first language?
Yes. And I pretty much was, instead of taking notes in class, which I don't recommend to anyone, but yeah, I was pretty much pretending to take notes in class. So I always looked like I was really focusing, but instead I was writing the story by hand, so on a pen and paper.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just really inspired during class instead of paying attention. Yeah.
Well, the French background, I think, explains the fluid way that you describe things. There's a certain romance to it.
Mm.
What other languages do you speak?
So fluent French, fluent English. I know basic Spanish, and I know bits and pieces in Russian, Greek, and Japanese, but only like little sentences. And I want to expand on that as well.
Wow. I love the way that you blended your background into the whole storyline with your travels and the language. The language is really well done throughout the book. It's just a lovely way of writing. It's so fluid.
Yeah, I wanted to not overcomplicate it, to make sure that everyone would be able to read it and understand it, especially because it's a young adult book. So I've had kids young as 8 read the book. So I know that there are some elements I would always tell the parents before they give it to their child. But because it's that easy, there's a wide age range that can read it. And I've had a lot of single moms actually be really into the book because they're saying that they actually had the time to read a book and that got them back into reading other books. So I'm happy about that.
That's wonderful. All right. And what's the hardest part, though? Because if you speak fluent French and that's your first language, how hard is it to translate all of that into English? Or is it easier because English has more words to choose from?
No, French has more words.
You think so?
Writing in French, you'd pretty much have an entire paragraph describing the one color or the one item. And the French really like to go into descriptive writing, whereas in English, that would be my editor highlighting the entire section saying, you're telling, not showing, because there's too much description.
Oh, okay. Well, you definitely showed us. It wasn't descriptive. It wasn't overly worded. It was really blended well. And it really gave you pause to question who was the bad guy, who was really good, and how everybody interconnected. There were some that were really surprised, and I really thought they were part of the bad guys, and then they turned out not to be so much.
Yeah, I like my my morally gray characters in the sense that all the good guys can also be bad, and all the bad guys can also be good. And I do like a good redeeming story, while also explaining the background as to why the bad guys would be doing what they're doing. And these bad guys will sort of be there until the end of the series, and as part of like the final big battle, which and book 4 will be named was it Battle of the Flames. And it goes even into more details as to where they come from, why they're doing it, what's the connection with the Nephanes, and just that whole the whole world. And it was definitely thanks to A.A. Warren, my editor, who made me rewrite the book, because once I got the movie deal, I decided, okay, we'll definitely need to rework the writing. And there was so many highlights of like, yep, you're telling, not showing, rewrite that. So lots of work went in it.
Wow, that must be hard to take. Was it? Yeah. How did you take all the criticism and changes that you had to do?
Oh, for me, I'm more about you learn things every day, and there's never a day where you'll know absolutely everything. So for me, I took that as an opportunity to see someone that had amazing experience and learn from her. And I've learned so much, and my writing has gone so far since I've worked with A.A. Warren, because she wouldn't just go and give me the answer. She would, highlight, add comments, say, okay, this scene really needs to be its whole chapter, so you're going to have to expand on that, or pointing out things, saying, okay, this is a bit confusing. So really make me think and work around the issues to be able to, But I'm still learning even today. So, yeah.
Is writing now your full-time job?
Unfortunately not.
No?
So I'm a full-time marketing manager for 6 major scaffolding companies. And that's taking, most of my time. And then on the side, I'm also helping the producer with his other projects, sort of to get my foot in the film industry and be able to learn as much as I can before my own project comes along.
Wow, you're very busy.
Yeah. Writing's been put on hold, but I'm going to be getting some leave soon so I can get back to and finish book 2.
So out of all the places you traveled to, why did you choose Australia to settle in as an adult?
So I did my high school in Australia. So my mom had picked Australia, did the 4 years at the French high school in Sydney, and loved it so much that by the time my parents had to move to the next country, I decided, you know what, I'm going to stay, because it's such a quiet place to live. Like, it's not dangerous. The lifestyle is just very easy. You've got plenty of job opportunities. And, you're not afraid to leave your house and go in the streets and meet people and do things. But at the same time, I love traveling, because Australia is absolutely beautiful, but sometimes it can be a bit boring because of how calm it is. So it's nice to have like that calm place to go back to, and then travel the world.
Oh, that sounds nice, but that must have been hard to do just after high school.
It definitely it had it had its complications, but because I was so used to moving countries anyways, it was easy for me to just go and introduce myself to new people and friends and go to uni. So I did a Bachelor of Interactive Media, so specialized in graphic design and web design, and just was able to do creative stuff and just meet people and create really good friends and just start my life from scratch.
Wow. What age group would you say this story, the whole story, the series would fit the best? From middle school up or high school?
Yeah, I'd say young adult, so maybe 13 plus. And then it's at the discretion of each parent if they read the book first and think that, that they can read it to younger children. But then it's there's a lot of things that are implied as opposed to descriptive, because there are certain scenes I don't really like to go too much into detail because then it becomes adult fantasy.
Right.
Yeah, just like I love reading young adult because it has that sort of like, just keep it to your imagination, and a lot of fade to black.
That's another thing I loved about it, that you did imply things, but it wasn't descriptive and it was fluid. It moved into the story. It didn't take away from the story. So you had that whole 5 minutes of, explaining it. It was just implied and then it just kept going along. It was really wonderful.
Thank you.
I had so much fun reading it. I can't wait to see what you do next. And I can't wait to see what the movie adaptation looks like. That's going to be exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for me, but exciting as well. But just to make sure that it's as close to the book as possible while still being well adapted into a movie. And casting is going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. I'm probably just going to let other people choose, and then I'll just keep an eye and just be like, wait, no, maybe not that one. Or, but I'm very excited.
My favorite so far was the Scottish woman. Is she going to play a bigger role?
Yes. So I don't like to add characters that don't have a reason to be in the book. And especially because she pops out a few more times. So she will definitely reappear in the other books.
Oh, that's great. Just has that certain mystical element, I just can't wait to see more about her. Well, thank you for sharing so much about what you do, how you came up with this wonderful story.
Thank you so much for having me. This was very, very interesting.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, I'm sure we'll be seeing more of you, and I can't wait to see what the next 3 books bring and the movie adaptation.
Book 2 is full of twists. Like if you think 1 was full of twists, it's nothing compared to what 2 is becoming.
And is the movie adaptation going to be the same names of the books, or do you know yet?
Yeah, same name. So they're already on IMDb as pre-development.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's so excited.
Very exciting.
Well, it was such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Until next time, keep asking questions. And if you want a fantastic adventure, The Last Regret is definitely going to take you there, by author Marie Jin. We'll see you soon.